Look, I'm not saying Rap TV is coming. I'm just preparing you for when it does. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Ali and today we are finally doing the Fearless Deep Dive. So I thrifted a secondhand corset for this video and I just want you to see it. Oh my god.
I am corseted in and it really hurts. Wow. This is tight. If there are any shots in the video where I look like I'm gonna faint or I look like I'm in pain, I probably am.
If it wasn't obvious by all of this, I'm very excited to talk about Fearless today. This album means so much to me and changed my life and Taylor's life in more ways than one. Debut was the album that introduced me to Taylor, made me like her, but Fearless was the album that got me obsessed. I heard this album as a kid and I was like, this is the best music that's ever been made. And I was right. Fearless had the longest reign on the Billboard 200 of the entire 2000s decade. It was the best-selling album of 2009. It beat out Beyonce and Lady Gaga for Album of the Year, with an additional 7 other nominations that year at the Grammys. And most importantly to me, this album captured what it feels like to be one of the most challenging but also powerful things in the world, a teenage girl. By the way, this is why you'll never catch me doing, oh god, I don't even know how you do it, one of these. I can't. It will always be this. This video was inspired by a couple of things. I was sharing some stories on Instagram from around this time and a lot of people were very shocked and surprised at some of the things I shared. So it kind of just reminded me that there was a lot that happened during this time people don't know about. And before Speak Now and 1989 Taylor's versions came out, I made sort of an everything you need to know about the era for people that maybe weren't fans back then or wanted to relive it so that we could all enjoy that new Taylor's version era together. Since then, the number one request in my DMs every single day is to please make one for Fearless, which to me is really cool because even though Taylor's version has already come out, it means that you guys still care enough about that original era to like want to know more, which as a big Fearless stan makes me very happy. Since this album and this era provides so much necessary context for what we will cover on Reputation, I figured now is as good a time as any to finally make this video for you. If you guys would like to see deep dives on Reputation and Debut from me, make sure you subscribe down below so you don't miss those. Also, if you would like me to make a part 2 to this video explaining the lore on these actual songs and who or what they were about, give this video a like to let me know because I had so much fun doing that for 1989. And I can also talk about some of the songs that didn't quite make it out of the vault. Additionally, last week I posted a video sharing like which Vampire Diaries characters I thought were represented by each Taylor Swift album, but someone posed the question to me like, which album do I think I am? And I had a bit of a crisis about it and was like, I actually don't know and I've never considered this in my whole life. So I asked you guys on Instagram what you thought and overwhelmingly the answer was Fearless. So ultimately I just thought it's finally time to make this video. This obviously goes without saying to anyone who knows me, but if you are new here, while we are revisiting the original Fearless era today, I highly recommend you listen to Taylor's version. The only reason I'm making this video is because of how much I love this entire re-recording process and how much it means to Taylor. I think it's really important that she gets to own her own work, so I highly recommend supporting those versions. Fearless as an album was such a big deal in my little teenage world, but also in the pop culture sphere and zeitgeist in general. There are certain times across her career that really stand out as like key cultural moments, and for me, hands down, Fearless is that first moment in time. When I think Taylor Swift, the Fearless era will always be it for me. It is always like who I will picture and remember Taylor as. And I thought about that quote of you get frozen at the age that you become famous, and that could definitely be part of it for sure. But I also just think that during this time, Taylor was still on the come up in terms of like her fame and success. It had not yet really reached the media scrutiny and I guess negative experience of fame. Therefore, during this time, she still felt really confident and comfortable to be incredibly open. We got to see so much of Taylor's personality, both through interviews and on tour, but also her own ways, which we will talk about in this video. So I'll always just cherish this as a time where we got to see how smart and intelligent she was without yet her being kind of taken down by the world. So like I said, I want this video to serve as important context for when the Rap TV era kicks off. We truly cannot hope to understand that album or the Tortured Poets department for that matter without first understanding this time. And that means obviously I cannot talk about the Fearless era without addressing the 2009 VMAs. There is so much that I feel like people still don't know happened, even though it was truly everywhere at that time. I didn't get to see it live because I live in Australia where we don't often get to watch like awards shows. The only reason I'm able to watch things now is because I use Surfshark VPN, who have kindly sponsored today's video. You guys know I love doing red carpet fashion reviews, watching awards show performances, releases, and basically anything fun and pop culture related, which is almost always taking place in America, where I don't live. So the only way I'm able to view these and share them with you is by using a VPN. A VPN is a virtual private network that basically gives you a new digital geographical location, so you can just bop around the world from the comfort of your couch, your bed, your friend's house. You can use it on unlimited devices, so really anywhere you want. If something isn't on your Netflix, you can just change your location in Surfshark, refresh the browser, and now you have a whole new catalog of things to watch. You're already paying for these subscriptions, so you might as well get access to the entire world's catalog of content, not just what your specific Netflix has decided to have for like the next 6 months. I also use Surfshark to keep me safe whilst traveling or using Wi-Fi in public spaces. Anytime we use a public network, someone can hack into the mainframe and steal your data. So now, thankfully, with Surfshark, I am fully protected.
Your software slays, by the way.
So go to surfshark.com/Sheehan or use code Sheehan at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Thank you so much, Surfshark, for sponsoring this video, and stay tuned for an in-depth explanation of the 2009 VMAs later in this video. So like I said, Taylor at this time really just felt like a big sister or a friend or the girl next door that really knew how it felt to be the age that you are, because she basically had just lived it and was conveying it in her music in real time. I'm sure many of you, whether you are older than me or younger than me, will agree this album really gave us girls a voice and spoke the things that we were feeling but could never express in such an eloquent way. For me, who was younger than Taylor and also a little bit like socially a late bloomer, I certainly had not experienced dating or being in love or even being broken up with, but Taylor gave me the ability to daydream about these experiences, which I might argue as like a tween is almost as fun as actually experiencing them. The fact that I couldn't relate to these lyrics and yet could still so deeply somehow relate to the songs is testament to the one thing I think Taylor does best, which is her songwriting. I am a little bit envious of those of you that like had experienced heartbreak and maybe did date someone called Steven and got to have these songs as like a soundtrack to your experiences. I'll just settle for daydreaming. I spoke in a recent video about how some of my favorite songs of Taylor's, like My Tears Ricochet or any songs really to do with fame, are about such specific circumstances that have never happened to me, yet are still some of my favorites of hers. Taylor has always had this innate ability to take uber specific circumstances from her life, including names or places, insert them into her songs, and yet make it so accessible for us, the listener, to relate and connect with and reflect on our own lives rather than hers. The overarching feeling that I get from Taylor's music, and this has been true since the very beginning and stayed with me until now, and I'm sure will continue to do so throughout the rest of her career, is that no matter what you are going through or feeling right now, you are not alone. Taylor has already been there too, and she's put that feeling into very beautiful words with a great harmony for your catharsis. In fact, Rolling Stone declared her lyrics squirmingly intimate and true confessions of what it's really like to be a teenage girl. And while there's no shortage of incredibly talented female singer-songwriters that are young today, back then in the country genre, I think Taylor was really filling a gap in the market and a slot that we all needed.
The fact that she was writing from a teenager's perspective was what was different, because there hadn't been prior to her a child writer, a teen writer who wrote from a teen perspective in country music, and that, I think, was what set her apart.
Something else that really helped her brand at this time is not only the fact that she was young like us, but also that she was very down to earth and normal. Her brand at the time, even in a business sense, was very relatable. Her partnerships weren't with companies like Chanel or Gucci, but rather Walmart and eventually Keds, often stating in interviews that her favorite stores to shop at were Forever 21 and Target. This helped build the brand and idea that Taylor wasn't so inaccessible, maybe like other pop stars we might have looked up to, but rather could just be the girl next door or maybe even your friend. She would even do live streams just talking about her favorite makeup purchases of that week or hair tips.
For like award shows and stuff, I really like to have that that like accentuated eyeliner line and then the crease up there. See? But when I curl my hair, you know how there's the curling iron barrel like this? What I do is I take the curling iron barrel and I wrap my hair around. That's how you get it to look spirally.
So while Taylor had definitely found immense success already at this point, she was still a deeply relatable teenage girl. Sure, she had gone on tour with famous artists, had hits on the radio, and was making a lot more money than most of us. The biggest issues in Taylor's life were the same as ours: a crush not liking you back, a boy breaking her best friend's heart, or not feeling cool enough.
Taylor covers everything from love to high school to hard times with her best friend Abigail.
My approach of this album was not based on pop or country story or this age demographic. It was based on me writing songs about boys and telling the stories that have happened in the past 2 years.
Essentially, she was the same regular girl she always had been, just now with a different schedule. So during this time, Taylor also dipped her toes into the acting world. We had her iconic arc as, I want to say, Haley on CSI.
But I told her, forensics is just science, you know? It's what you go to school for, but you don't look like my chem teacher. I hate you! I've always hated you!
As well as a cameo in the Academy Award-winning, life-changing cinematic masterpiece, the Hannah Montana movie.
I'd never gone with the wind, just let it flow.
Either as herself or like a local townsperson. I'm pretty sure she's credited as herself, but Taylor Swift is referenced throughout Hannah Montana the show, and it's like never really mentioned that she sang there in Crowley Corners. So Taylor also wrote and provided 2 songs for the film, Crazier, which she performed and I will be dancing to eventually at my wedding someday, and You'll Always Find Your Way Back Home, which is quite honestly maybe the best song ever written by anyone anywhere.
You can change your hair and you can change your clothes, you can change your mind, that's just the way it goes.
And that was written with the controversial Martin Johnson, which I will get into if I make a part 2, but Miley sings that song to close out the film and give me goosebumps every time. Once again, if we ever get Taylor's version of either of those songs, someone check on me because I will not be okay. So on the note of Taylor being relatable, we can call her many things. She is talented and supportive and phenomenal in so many ways, but one word I don't think most of the world or even Taylor herself would use is cool. You know, I think some people are cool and like maybe aloof. Think of like a Victoria Beckham. And then other people I think are warm and excitable, and that's where I see Taylor falling into. Taylor has never tried to be cool or apathetic or like unaffected by any of this stuff, but rather she has maintained her excitable ability to be excitable and like a sense of gratitude and childlike wonder. I really always appreciated that about her, because you could assume that after winning a couple of awards, maybe it gets old or you start expecting to win them so it doesn't feel as exciting. That's never been Taylor's bag. Every single time she wins an award, she's excited about it.
And I want to thank God and my family for moving to Nashville so that I could do this. I want to thank country radio. I will never forget the chance that you took on me. I can't even believe this, and this is definitely the highlight of my senior year.
And to me, that is so beautiful, because imagine if we took the time out of our lives to vote for someone and they're like, okay, cool, who cares? I already have some of these. Instead, we get to celebrate someone that celebrates it right back and feels like it's a momentous occasion every single time. Whether it was winning an award or meeting another celebrity, Taylor never tried to downplay her gratitude or joy. And this became something the media would also eventually scrutinize her for, calling it fake.
Don't act surprised when you win. Don't, oh my God, like you were nominated and there were only 5 people in the category.
It seems like you're so shocked every time you win something, and at this point I'm like, really? Taylor can't be that shocked. And we have all your sort of actually surprised Taylor
Don't show it to me.
faces.
This will hurt my feelings. Do not show it to me. That's how I am, though. I just kind of get really excited about stuff. When it's you and you've watched these award shows your whole life and you're at the Grammys and they call your name, that freaks you out. Trust me, it freaks you out. It is a crazy thing to happen to a person.
Which I'm like, again, you really can't win, because if she had just sat there unaffected by it and saying, okay, cool, well, I already have one, so who cares? I'm sure they wouldn't love that either. So the fact that she was actively surprised and happy to win, this just in, gratitude and wonder are now cancelable offenses. This was a statement I really liked from Taylor on success.
Never assume that you're entitled to success, because then if you get success, it'll be a pleasant surprise.
Nowhere was this more evident than in her YouTube vlogs.
Guys, check it out.
Whoa.
Thank you. That's all that I can think to say right now is thank you, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to thank you for this and for how fun you've made my life. And I just, you know, thank you. I love you guys. I'll see you on tour. Dad, what is that?
This is like my daughter's in the paper again. It's unbelievable. Look how neat that is.
Goofing around while on tour, hanging out with her best friend Abigail, just trying to kill time in between projects. This gave us such a generous insight into Taylor's life and personality during this time. It really allowed fans the chance to see a different side of her and show she really was just another teenage girl like the rest of us. In addition addition to the vlogs, another place that we got to know Taylor was, of course, MySpace.
As a self-confessed child of the internet, she utilized social media websites in order to build her fan base.
MySpace was really kind of at its peak about the time that Tim McGraw hit. And so people had a way to listen to the song that didn't involve waiting to hear it on the radio. So she was building an audience the whole time that that song was around, whether radio was playing it or not.
You have a very strong online community. Can you talk a little bit about that?
You know, being online and stuff like that, I didn't realize that we were excelling at it because it was just something that I was doing, because I had a MySpace and it was my personal MySpace and I had my music up there, and I didn't think anything of it that I had like 500,000 friends. And then people started writing all these articles about it, like leader of the MySpace generation. I'm like, hey, thank you. Like I just write people back on MySpace and I put up my own stuff and put up my own pictures and treat it like it's a personal MySpace, because it is. And so, you know, that's kind of how I guess developed that online thing, but also just the way that you guys and all these people have jumped on board and done all these interviews with me and all this exclusive content is just unbelievable. So thank you.
I would love to know if any of you watching this are too young to know what MySpace is. Basically, before there was X and Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, there was Facebook, and before that there was MySpace. It was a social media website that could be customized. You could share information with your friends, or in Taylor's case, your fans. She would write blog posts to keep us up to date on her life, would share new songs, and going back a little bit further, even just made inside jokes with her own friends.
MySpace is an awesome new thing. It's an online website where people can really connect with artists. Every night I really try to keep tabs on my MySpace and see people who are leaving me comments. I want to be a part of these people's lives. I think it's important to keep that personal contact. That's the most fun thing for me, is to hear what people think and all the different stories of people the first time they heard the song, how it affected them. I just love all that.
I think I've mentioned this on here before, that I had Taylor as my top friend on MySpace, and I'm realizing now that some of you might not know what top friends are. So imagine on your Instagram now, if where it had your who you follow, you had a slot for 4, 8, or 12 of your like closest friends. But not only did you have to pick your closest friends to put in that slot, you had to rank them in order and say like, this is how much they mean to me. This is who I'm closest with. This was not ranked by like an algorithm, but you specifically doing it by hand. And you could rearrange these depending on the day. If someone pissed you off, you could drop them down a couple slots. So in my mind, I was like, well, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Why don't I put Taylor first, and then no one else can like be my number one spot? But as you can imagine, this doesn't really solve the problem, because then you still have all the other slots after it. But anyway, MySpace was such a huge integral part of Taylor's career taking off during this time. And this was really where the relationship formed with fans that you still see to this day. It's why she cares so much about us and always has, because it was fostered way back then at the start of her career. It's so weird to think about what a big deal it was at the time. Like, on the guitar pick that Andrea gave me in 2009, I think, there were 2 ways listed to like keep up to date with Taylor. One was her official website, but the second was her MySpace page. And I can tell you from back then, I didn't really care about the website. I was just refreshing her MySpace. Her MySpace was way more fun because it was personalized. One particular blog entry from November 2008 read, "Usually when life is happening to you, you feel like you're the only one going through it. When I finish a song, sometimes I think I must be the only person who has ever felt this way, right? Then you guys come into the picture. You stand there singing those lyrics and writing them all over your car windows." I feel like people don't do that anymore, but that was huge back then, especially in America. "And writing them all over your shirt and your away messages." Again, let me know if you're old enough to know what an away message is. And I want you to know it makes me so happy, because it's reassurance that we're all connected somehow. And this connection made us feel like, as much as we looked up to Taylor, maybe we had some kind of positive role in her life too. Nowhere was this more evident than the famous 13-hour meet and greet, which in fact became a 15-hour meet and greet. At this, Taylor stood all day long meeting as many fans as she possibly could, and even gave an impromptu acoustic performance. And this was one of the first times that we really saw the friendship bracelets being exchanged. I don't know how much of my own personal stories I've shared on here, but during concert in 2008 or 9, I was about this distance from Taylor at a show with my cousin, and she gave Taylor just the bracelet that she had worn, and Taylor wore it for the rest of the show. And like, I know that's such an easy thing to do, but to us it just meant the world, that we were like, oh my god, this person that I look up to and idolize is taking the time to like wear something that belongs to me. And yes, you probably could have thrown it out right after the show, but for those 2 hours and the fact that we got photos taken of Taylor wearing her bracelet, it just meant so much to us. And fostering that deep relationship with fans so early on, like I said, it has continued to benefit her this entire time because we are all so deeply invested in her career and her life and wanting to support her. But I also just think it's been so rewarding as a fan. I can't imagine having hitched my wagon. Horse? What do you hitch to it? Hitching my horse? I can't imagine having picked any other singer when I was like 13 to fall in love with, because I don't think I would have had this enjoyable of an experience all these years later. Anyway, the best thing about this incredibly demanding 15-hour meet and greet, it was totally free. Still to this day, Taylor has never ever charged for any meet and greet event ever.
I really don't know where I would be today if it wasn't for her.
Buddy, that's so sweet. So sweet.
In fact, she usually goes out of her way to find fans that have like cheaper tickets and are in like the nosebleeds or are just having a really good time.
One of my favorite things about this tour is that we had a reward for the craziest fans. They were just having a great time and dancing and like freaking out throughout the entire show. It's a possibility that they could get randomly picked.
We would have a team of people that would go out there and look for the most over-the-top Taylor fans and then tell them that they're coming to the tea party after the show to meet Taylor.
I wanted them to have a place to sit down, eat, feel comfortable, have something to drink, do whatever they wanted to do because they've made a lot of this possible for me.
The Tea Party Room is a magical room that we set up inside every single venue that we played in on the Fearless tour. After the show, I would always have this surprise meet and greet for people who had been randomly selected during that show. That's where some of the coolest memories from the tour come from.
While other artists charge for it, and I totally would understand and respect if she did, this is just something that Taylor has always made free and would regularly go out of her way to meet fans. Another very like real person thing that Taylor would do during this time is that even with her huge fame and like notoriety and recognizableness, she would go to Target on the day that her album would be released and buy a physical copy and hang out with fans and take photos.
Anxious Taylor Swift made a late-night Walmart run to celebrate the official release day of her brand new album, Fearless.
Oh my gosh!
Taylor hinted she would be there on her MySpace blog page, and hundreds of young Swift supporters showed up to be near the teen sensation.
I'm here at Target buying my CD, and there are all these people who are buying it too, which is cool. Hey girl, how are you? How are you?
And then comes the thing that I think really set Taylor apart from other songwriters and became a huge selling point, not only for fans, but also kind of the media at large. And that is when she would go on record saying, "I name names in my songs."
I'm a big fan of being very obvious and detailed and personal with my songs. It's something I like to do just personally for albums. Put a song on the album where somebody's name is mentioned and they have no idea that they're a song now. There's a song on the album called Hey Steven where I'm doing that. This guy has no clue. And it's gonna be really interesting when November 11th rolls around to get that reaction.
I like writing their names into songs so they're ashamed to go in public, but I'm not gonna say that in my monologue. Basically, the only song I know how to write is a personal one, and a song that is about someone. You know, when I see the track listing of my album, there's like a face that pops up next to every single song title. My music is basically my diary put to music.
Writing very openly about the way that she feels about things, to the point of even naming people in song.
And so I never told this guy that I liked him, but I did write a song about this guy, and his name is Drew.
You're singing. You do like to sing about dudes.
I love writing about boys.
Yeah.
Really detailed, personal boy songs.
And do you ever have that moment where you realize or you think twice about the fact that it's so detailed, name-checking, and personal?
Kind of, but it's also sort of a personal thing for me, that it's like a personal goal for my songs to be so obvious that they know that it's written about them.
When you write songs, you include the names of actual guys you've dated.
Yeah, I do.
If you are naming the guys you've dated in your songs, why do you think any guy's going to want to date you?
I just figure that if guys don't want me to write bad songs about them, then they shouldn't do bad things.
We had already seen this on the previous album debut / Taylor Swift.
Drew looks at me. Corey's eyes are like a jungly smiles, it's like the radio.
But on Fearless, Taylor had what I would say was like a life-changing experience and career-changing experience in having her first high-profile relationship and also breakup. And I'm of course referring to my very own beloved Joseph Adam Jonas. The fact that fans and the world in general could now listen and appreciate Taylor's songs, but also maybe know who they were about, changed the game. This definitely added on to Taylor's already huge fame at the time. And even though their relationship was very short-lived, they had a few iconic public appearances together. And sadly, an even more iconic breakup.
Have you really been hurt, though? You think you've really been hurt in the past? You're very young.
Yes. Yeah, that's happened.
She's reaching for her coffee.
How many times?
Deeply? Once.
Deeply. Once.
Taylor was reportedly dating Joe Jonas. We don't know if you were or not.
Yeah.
So you were dating?
Yeah.
And how do you make it through and past something that was so difficult? And clearly, you're still very, very hurt about it.
I like to write about my life, and as my life changes and things happen, I write about it. That's just how I deal with things. It's tough. There's actually one song on the record that is about it. I did an emergency, like a last-minute recording session, so there's a track on the record that's actually...
What's it called?
It's called Forever and Always.
There's also a doll.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I bet you have that with some pins or something, probably.
See, this one even comes with a phone. See, so he can break up with other dolls. Stay away from him.
You might think I'd bring up Joe, that guy who broke up with me on the phone, but I'm not going to mention him in my monologue.
You know what? It's like when I find that person that is right for me and he'll be wonderful. And when I look at that person, I'm not even going to be able to remember the boy who broke up with me over the phone in 25 seconds when I was 18.
At this time, Taylor wrote Forever and Always kind of at the last minute and slotted it into Fearless just in the nick of time before release. Joe then wrote Much Better, where he sings Now I'm Done with Superstars and all the tears on her guitar.
Now I'm done with superstars and all the tears on her guitar.
At one show, even changing the lyrics to Now I'm Done with Country Stars. I just loved my messy divorced parents so much because I'm telling you, during this time, Jonas Brothers fans and Taylor Swift fans, or Joe Bro Hoes and Swifties, in 2008, that Venn diagram was a circle, or a hand heart, if you will. And I cannot tell you how happy it made me when I saw the Jonas Brothers in Vegas in 2023. Hearing Joe sing, Now I'm Cool with Superstars, something inside of me healed that day. Also, I love telling you guys about songs that were like written for another album but slotted into a different one, like Sparks Fly, for example. But funnily enough, Mr. Perfectly Fine is also a Speak Now reject, so kind of should have been on the Speak Now vault. This was written after the album came out whilst touring Fearless, so it's so weird to imagine it being on Speak Now because to me, it really just, it fits Fearless so well. So after Joe wrote and put out this song about how much better his new girlfriend was than Taylor,
The girl in front of me is much better.
she in return then referenced it in the pop rock song of my dreams. Taylor has since laughed and talked about this time both in interviews and even on Folklore.
Gold was the steel of my axe to grind for the boys who broke my heart. Now I send their babies presents.
What is the most rebellious thing you did as a teenager?
Probably when I put Joe Jonas on blast on your show. That was too much.
Laugh about it now,
Oh,
but
that's
it's
good.
still, that was some
Yeah.
mouthy, just
All right.
some teenage stuff there.
But her and Joe are thankfully on great terms now, or maybe at least were until the Joe and Sophie divorce. However, the most two important things to come out of the Joe Jonas-Taylor Swift relationship were the song Better Than Revenge, obviously, and her friendship with Selena Gomez.
How did you guys first meet?
We actually dated the Jonas Brothers.
Taylor and Selena met because Selena was dating Nick at the time, so they double dated, and once both of these puppy love Disney Channel kind of relationships inevitably ended, they got to walk away from it with a really beautiful lifelong friendship. And on a personal note, I really loved the Taylor-Selena friendship growing up because they just, again, kind of seemed like the girls that I could have hung out with outside of school. I obviously looked up to Miley as well, but I knew she was way too cool for me. I knew that she was the kind of girl that would be partying or doing things that I was like a bit scared of at the time. Whereas Selena and Taylor, I was like, okay, they're more my speed. You know, they're not necessarily cool, and I like that. Now, Now, the reason I mention this breakup is because I really think it set a lot of things in motion. As I mentioned, Taylor iconically addressed this on The Ellen Show, and Ellen has her flaws for sure, but I actually really agree and appreciate what she said to Taylor here.
Someday I'm gonna find somebody really, really great who's right for me.
Yes, you are.
And
You're 18 years old. Of course, you're gonna find about 40 people that are right for you. You're a fantastic person. You have a great personality. You're just adorable. You're talented. You've got so much going for you. So
Thank you.
When you're young, actually, honestly, at any age, it's so easy to get caught up in a first love or a first heartbreak that just has like a monumental impact on your heart. But ultimately, dating can be like travel. Like really, you should go out and see the world and see all that it has to offer before deciding to settle down somewhere. And it doesn't need to be 40 people, but also if you want it to be, why not? So the fact that this sentiment of encouraging her to not get fixated too early on one person and encouraging this young girl not to settle and, you know, try things and figure out what she likes in relationships, very soon after that got twisted into, well, she's dating too much. She's crazy. She's obsessed with boys, but she can't keep one.
In the last couple of years, the media have had a really wonderful fixation on kind of painting me as like the psycho serial dater girl. It's been awesome. It got pretty out of control there for a couple of years because it would be like every article was like, Taylor Swift standing near some guy. Watch out, guy.
To me, the ability to love deeply and be let down, but your heart still remain open is such an admirable quality to have. And certainly not an easy one, but it is something that benefits Taylor in her own life because it evidently hasn't hardened her as a person, but obviously also benefits her career. It allows her to still feel things again. Any of you guys that have experienced like a life-changing, devastating heartbreak, you know that one of those feelings could be, I'm never gonna date again. I can't ever be in love again because I can't physically go through this experience. It's too painful, it's too hard. So to me, the ability to say, no, like that hurt, but I have the strength to go through it again, I will always admire that. Taylor kind of sang about this even on Nothing New. They tell you while you're young, girls go out and have your fun, then they hunt and slay the ones who actually do it. I go more into this on my 1989 deep dive, but the kind of slut shaming Taylor experienced really does all kind of come back to starting here with Joe. And on that same note, one of the key criticisms we see in the media or even in Swiftie spaces is she just sings about boys. Now, I could sit here and like list all the songs for you that are not about being in love or having your heart broken or to do with boys at all. I could, and I think also have already made the argument that that isn't true, but I don't even want to focus on that because my actual argument and opinion is, so what if it was? Most of the songs that we listen to in some way or another are about love, whether they are having feelings for someone, getting your heart broken, missing someone. This is the world's most relatable experience. What is the problem? I will just never understand this problem they have with Taylor, and to me it is only because they can view who she's dating or who they think she's dating. If the songs were more anonymous, maybe people wouldn't have as much of a problem with it. I still don't get it. As Taylor said in the 1989 era, it's a sexist opinion to have. Men write about women and love and heartbreak all the time, and they never get shit for it. And in addition to that, Taylor has always had the ability to write about a love that she hasn't even experienced yet. Look at songs like Fearless, about the perfect first date that she hasn't gone on. Mine, about, you know, a love that she's hoping to find. Or even Enchanted, where she met Adam Young and was so inspired she could write an entire song about it. This is why being a teenage girl is so incredibly powerful, because you can daydream a whole relationship before it even starts. In fact, I have some evidence to provide the court today. This is from the Lover Journals, and this is an entry from December 27, 2006. So debut album is out. She's writing songs now for the Fearless album, and Taylor concludes this diary entry by saying, "Life is pretty good. I'm now obsessed with Law and Order. Completely obsessed. And my album's about to go gold. Haven't kissed a boy in 209 days." A lot of the songs she wrote for debut and even for Fearless weren't even about a real relationship she was experiencing at the time. The ability to write such detailed and personal art just from what you have going on up here will never cease to amaze me. Like, as we know, Taylor is a phenomenal songwriter, and she built her career by being able to tell a compelling story through wordplay, even from as young as 13, before she'd even looked at a boy. But even if all of her songs to this day had continued to be about love and broken hearts, so what? I will just always defend this criticism because I've never understood it. Love is the most universal experience. To quote a wise prophet, love is the closest thing we have to magic.
I know that there's a reason why everybody wants it so much. And what's that? It's the closest thing we have to magic.
So how amazing to write such specific and detailed songs about her own relationship experiences and personal life, or made up daydreams, yet they can touch the mind and heart of all of us so strongly as if it was pulled from our own diaries. Like I said earlier about Taylor and Selena being people I really looked up to as a kid, I think Taylor really took that in her stride as well and knew how many young eyes she had on her. That's not to say that she would be acting any different if no one knew who she was. I just don't get the idea that she ever had any desire to be out clubbing or drinking. But I also really love that she kind of took the merit or value out of that. Like, people would say to her in interviews, every other, young artist is a complete train wreck, obviously kind of trying to throw Britney Spears under the bus, which at the time was a very common thing to do. And Taylor had this different approach where she wasn't like, yeah, I look at them and I know what not to do, or, you have to be a role model because kids are looking at you. She kind of confessed, I just don't have an interest in that stuff, therefore it's not hard for me to avoid it. She denied any credit for the wholesome image that she had because she was like, I kind of just don't ever have the inclination to do those things. So I just really appreciated that Taylor in that moment didn't even take all of this credit for the great human being that she was growing up to be. She was more acknowledging the lucky position she was in.
Who do you think is your in best new artist category is tough competition?
Amy Winehouse.
Do you think Amy Winehouse has
I think she's gonna win it all the way from London.
Are you disappointed that Amy's not gonna be here?
I think that it's probably good for her that she's in rehab and stuff.
Yes.
You gotta kind of worry about the person, and I think it would be superficial of me to say, no, she should be in LA and compromise her health so she can be on the Grammys,
Right.
She's gonna be on the Grammys anyway, but she's just gonna be in like a healthier, less risky situation, which is always good.
So you think she made the right call?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, and we're finally here. It's finally time to talk about it. Friday, September 13th, 2009. What a night. So much in the Taylor Swift cinematic universe comes back to this exact moment. The 2009 VMAs created a rift in the space-time continuum. It changed the fabric of our society, and we have never been the same since. It really kicked off a lot of what Taylor would experience and write about in the future. I actually hate even having to talk about this at all because the person that Kanye has become since then is like even worse, and I don't want to give any of my platform to that kind of like hate speech and like racist vitriol that he espouses, but I cannot talk about this time without talking about this. So on this beautiful September night, Taylor arrives very much in love story fashion in a horse-drawn carriage. In a promo for the event, she sang, "There'll be no teardrops on like it's her." So on this night, Taylor was nominated for a fan-voted category, Best Female Video for You Belong With Me. It's maybe key to note that Kanye showed up kind of late to the red carpet with a full bottle of alcohol, starting with it full at the beginning of the red carpet and kind of going through it throughout the event. And I don't say this at all to like justify someone's behavior because they were drunk or intoxicated, but maybe to highlight sort of an element of lack of respect or professionalism coming into this event in the first place. For Taylor, obviously she was a teenager, she was still so young in her career. This event would have been a huge deal for her. Whereas for Kanye, he was in his 30s, he was quite a bit more into his career, and maybe at this point just like didn't really give a fuck. So anyway, we get to Taylor's category, and her then boyfriend at the time, Taylor Lautner, along with Shakira, were presenting the award. A werewolf and a she-wolf. Taylor was incredibly surprised and happy and got up to share her gratitude.
I always dreamed about what it would be like to maybe win one of these someday, but never actually thought that would happen.
And sadly, I think we all know what happened next.
Happy for you, I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
You guys might notice that staircase design at the back of the stage. This was actually referenced during the Reputation set on the Eras tour. Now, personally, when my favorite artist doesn't win an award, I would let my frustration out by like texting a friend, doing some deep breathing, maybe tweeting about it if I was really fired up. But in what world is it necessary to get on stage in front of the whole world and say, by the way, this is who I wanted to win?
It's kind of a bullying moment, you know, you don't do that to kids.
Was it that important that we all found out who your personal pick was for this fan-voted event? Kanye, did you even vote? Because I know the Swifties did. I know that Taylor handled this so well. She's incredibly professional and has always seemed mature for her age, but it is just so important to remember that this was a teenage girl. If we think about the most humiliating or hardest moments that we went through at that age, likely in school, the crowd that witnessed that that our embarrassing moment was probably not as big as the 2009 VMA viewership. Taylor thought in that moment that the crowd booing was directed at her and agreeing with Kanye, basically saying she didn't deserve to be there. Backstage immediately after this, Taylor was found crying and admitted that she just wanted to go home. Unfortunately, she was performing just 5 minutes later, so she had to put on a brave face and get back out there. Now, Taylor Lautner, bless him, has since admitted he didn't realize at the time that this was like a real thing that was happening. He kind of thought maybe it was a scripted joke.
If you can go back to one moment in your life, what moment would that be?
Probably the 2009 VMAs, and was unaware that the Kanye thing was not a skit. I took, 5 steps back and was standing 5 feet behind her. I can barely hear it. I can't see them. I'm just assuming that this whole thing was a practice and rehearsed skit. If you look back at it, I'm actually caught laughing and giggling at it. I'm like, I can't hear them, but this is probably really funny right now.
Until Taylor Swift turned around and he could see she was visibly upset.
The second she turned back around and I saw her face for the first time, I was like, oh, probably should have said something.
I think that reaction is evident in a lot of the crowd as well. I see people online often say Beyonce was laughing along with him. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but to me that's very clearly the reaction when you feel a bit awkward and embarrassed and are just sort of laughing along because you don't know what else to do. And that was shock in her eyes. So at the end of the show, Beyonce did in fact win the most coveted award, Video of the Year for Single Ladies, very deservedly so. Van Toffler, the then CEO of Viacom, knew that Beyonce was going to win this award and had met her backstage earlier, found she was also in tears about what had happened and also wanted to go home. Because he knew that she would be winning this award at the end of the night, he had the idea to let the entire situation be resolved in that one single night, and he gave Beyonce the idea to invite Taylor up on stage.
I remember being 17 years old, up for my first MTV award with Destiny's Child, and it was one of the most exciting moments in my life. So I'd like for Taylor to come out and have her moment.
Beyonce here was incredibly gracious, and since Kanye had made Taylor's moment about himself, she invited Taylor to join her on stage and have the moment she deserved.
I would really like to thank Roman White, who directed my video, and Lucas Till for being in it, and I would like to thank all the fans on Twitter and MySpace and everyone who came out to my shows this summer. Thank you so much!
Beyonce, coming from Destiny's Child and also having found success at such a young age, knew what this must have meant for Taylor and how she must be feeling. So I just think that was such a classy, beautiful moment for both of them and kind of started a supportive relationship that we've seen from them ever since.
I thought that I couldn't love Beyonce more tonight, and then then tonight happened, and it was just wonderful.
I would also like to note, anyone that says in response to songs that we got on the Tortured Poets department that Taylor needs to move on from this, A, you didn't experience it, so what right do you have to say whether it still impacts someone or not? But B, I don't know if people understand just how monumental of an event this was. To experience this in front of the entire world, even the president himself commented on this. That is such a formative thing to go through, again, as a teenager. Taylor has since said, that was sort of like a catalyst for a lot of psychological paths that I went down, and not all of them were beneficial. It was all fueled by not feeling like I belonged there. Kanye apologized the next day, but has since retracted that apology and said basically he was just peer pressured into doing it and doesn't regret anything he did back then. He had no regrets, and essentially it had only benefited his career, which we will of course get to in a Reputation video. To quote, he said, "The 2009 VMA incident led him to complete awesomeness in his life." So, now Taylor took all of this in her stride at the time, being able to joke about it for SNL.
You might be expecting me to say something bad about Kanye and how he ran up on the stage and ruined my VMA monologue. But there's nothing more to say, 'cause everything's okay. I've got security lining the stage.
Even publicly forgiving Kanye with a song dedicated to him for the Speak Now album called Innocent. It was very clear how compassionate and I would say graceful Taylor was, even from a really young age, shown by her response to something that had clearly rocked her world so much.
What went through your mind when he came up and then they cut off the...
I was standing on stage and I was really excited because I had just won the award, and then I was really excited because Kanye West was on the stage, and then I wasn't so excited anymore.
Are there any hard feelings towards him?
I don't know him, and I've never met him, so...
So were you a fan before?
Yeah. It's Kanye West.
Are you still a fan? I take it now.
You know, I don't know him, and I don't want to start anything because I had a great night tonight.
And I think that's really testament to the way she was raised, whether it be her faith, her parents, her friends, but just having a really good head on her shoulders. Now, unfortunately, the fallout from this event was instantaneous and widespread. There was so much discussion about what happened. Was he joking? Was it funny? Do you agree with him? And eventually saying that Taylor was just playing the victim. Ultimately, this led to Kanye claiming in a song, "I made that bitch famous." I'm intrigued to have a conversation with you guys about this because whilst I think the main issue in that sentence and in that lyric was the word bitch, because as we know, that is the part that Taylor didn't approve and like never got to hear and is a derogatory term. I also do wonder how she felt about the notion of him claiming to have made her famous. In my view, it is A, not true, and B, still a pretty hurtful idea. Once again, I just have so much empathy. I just don't think I could have handled what Taylor went through, especially coming from one of the biggest hip-hop artists in the world. I'm just way too thin-skinned to be in like the rap or hip-hop world because any kind of song that even jokingly put me down would like put me in the grave. I just emotionally am way too sensitive for that, and I will work on that. Maybe I will read Let Them by Mel Robbins, but ultimately Kanye did not make her famous, neither did Scott Borchetta, Scooter Braun, or her dad for that matter. The only person that made Taylor Swift famous is Taylor Swift. And maybe her fans. At the end of the day, Taylor's superpower and the reason that she deserves every single accolade she has is because of her songwriting, an undeniable pen game, and a voice that connects with her audience more than pretty much anyone else. Her courageousness and tenacity, her drive, and her refusal to ever give up are what made her famous. Nobody else.
I find it funny thinking about if I were to have like a party for all the songwriters on that song.
Really?
Yeah, because it would just be me.
Other key moments from the Fearless era is obviously touring. Interestingly, during this time, Taylor also performed live with Justin Bieber, who she brought out on her tour, and John Mayer. But personally, my favorite thing from the Fearless tour was costume changes, the B-stage moments, which I had a really cool experience at, and the writing of 13 on her hand, which if you go back to like the Fearless and Speak Now tours, we were all doing this. I was kind of bummed she didn't bring it back for the Eras tour, but I get it. It would have been hard to do in between eras. A lot of you have asked me like the secret. I always just use a texter and then a Sharpie to outline, and then nail polish on top for like the glitter, which you really can't see anymore, and also it's kind of backwards for you, but that's just how I did it.
The way you kiss, the way you cry, where you move when you walk by. There ain't nothing about you that don't do something for me. In my life I've been hammered by some heavy blows. Never knock me off my feet. The way you look, the way you laugh, the way you love with all you have. There ain't nothing about you that don't do something for me. And boy, the list goes on and on and on. There's a plane or a bus leaving Dallas. I hope you're on it. Baby, run, cut a path across the blue sky. Lean on the gas and off the clutch, leave Dallas in the dust. I need you in a rush, so baby, run.
I also can't talk about this era without mentioning Thug Story. This was a musical comedy skit made with T-Pain for the CMT Music Awards in June of 2009. Sort of satirical parody YouTube videos like this were very common and popular in the 2000s and maybe the early 2010s as well.
Hello there, friends, and welcome to my tutorial on how to trick people into thinking you're really good looking.
But I feel like are really not that common anymore, and I kind of wonder if that is to do with there's been a sort of culture shift of viewing trying as cringe and not trying as cool. I think it's a little bit reflected in fashion and people who are popular at the time that are viewed as like effortless. Like it's very cool to be effortlessly cool, like a Hailey Bieber, which again, like I said earlier, Taylor wasn't or wasn't perceived as. So I wonder if that's why we don't see these kind of videos anymore, because it's like people might just deem them to be cringe. And even now I see kind of a lack of understanding for what this video was. People have mistakenly attributed it as cultural appropriation or that that she was trying to be really cool, but again, it was like a parody of herself.
You don't wanna fight me? Straight to the top. In my extra small white tee.
The very joke of it is that like Taylor is essentially the whitest white girl you could find.
What? I knit sweaters, yo!
And how ridiculous it would be for her to like try to fit into this world and rap. Within the song, she flips these rap trends on their head by explaining, you know, she hasn't ever been to a club and still lives with her parents.
No, I ain't got a gun. No, I never really been in a club. Still live with my parents.
Honestly, bring back this era of YouTube. It was just like silly and fun. But the notion of cringe is definitely a criticism or a word that I've seen follow Taylor throughout her career.
Cringe is unavoidable over a lifetime. Even the term cringe might someday be deemed cringe. And while we're talking about things that make us squirm but really shouldn't, I'd like to say I'm a big advocate for not hiding your enthusiasm for things.
Like I said, because she was excitable and had strong reactions to things, she was never going to be perceived as someone who just didn't care. Personally, I think if the worst thing you can be called is cringe, you're doing okay. But maybe I'm projecting a little bit because during this time, again, I was watching Thug Story or a Very Potter musical on my family's home computer. So ultimately, Fearless is the diary and the story of a girl who didn't think of herself as cool, but got to live a really exciting life anyway, whether that was out in reality or in her own rich inner world. While today some of this might be repackaged as pick-me behavior, at the time in the 2000s, Taylor represented those of us that didn't necessarily fit in. And while it was amazing to see her take up more space in the world and, you know, find that acceptance she was looking for, this time period and this album will still forever feel so relatable. There is just so much more I could say about this album, but again, I think I want to make a part 2 and really dive into each individual song. I would love to hear your personal memories from the Fearless era, if you were around back then, or maybe if you weren't, you can tell me which song really speaks to you now. I'd also love to ask you guys a favor. If you did watch to the end, if you guys could give the video a like, because I don't have a Patreon or any kind of paid membership and YouTube doesn't always show my video to my subscribers. That just helps so much. I can't express how much I love getting to do this and putting all my time and effort into these videos, and I just really want to be able to keep doing them. So thank you so much. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Is this what it feels like?